Hello, my name is DBMP, as you could tell from the name of the channel, or you could just call me DB, and if that is too odd, just call me Larry. Now, as the name of the video suggests, I'll be talking about gachas, or more specifically, gacha games. For the gacha part, it's basically a slot machine where you put in money, and instead of trying to get more money out of it, you are instead trying to get a prize, like a trinket or a knickknack you can collect, like the ones you find in Kinder Decks. Now, in gacha games, however, instead of trinkets, you are trying to collect PMGs of random anime characters.
Osmanthus wine tastes the same as I remember.
The question now is, what are these PMGs used for? Believe it or not, these PMGs are actually the characters you use to play the games, otherwise known as units. And no, the games are not just PNGs slap-fighting each other. There are actually full-blown 3D models with full-blown animations and effects. Of course, in some cases, they are just PNGs slap-fighting each other, but very few nowadays. Now, as for the kind of game a gacha game is, that can vary, because gacha isn't necessarily a genre, but rather referring to the slot machines within the game, otherwise known as banners. As for the actual genre, that can range from tactical RPGs to hack and slash to puzzle games, even card games. One could even argue that card games like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, or Magic were technically the first gacha games out there, especially Magic with how long that's been around. Of course, with the obvious difference being that cards are actual physical objects you can own. However, there are digital-only card games like Hearthstone and Legends of Runeterra, where their cards are solely digital. However, one thing that gachas have in common, whether they are card games or RPGs, is that people invest a lot of money into them at times. Or one would think. You see, gachas don't have you use your money to directly pay for gacha pulls. Gacha pulls basically being the attempt on a banner to obtain a character. Instead, they have you use your money to pay for a microcurrency, which you then use to pull on the banner. What is microcurrency? Basically, microtransaction currency. Currency you obtain with real money. Think of it like when you go on a trip out of country, so you need a different kind of currency. You then use your own money to trade in for the proper currency needed. And just like how different currencies have varying exchange rates, different gacha games have varying pricings for their microcurrencies. One gacha may average $3 for a pull, while another may average $1.50 for a pull. And that may not sound that much, but over time it can build up pretty fast, if you're not careful. Now, there are microcurrency bundles, which allow you to get more microcurrency for less money. But you still have to be careful because it can still add up to a lot if you're too reckless with your spending. Now, let's get back to the banners. You may notice that there are two options, either a single pull or a 10 pull. With the single pull costing as much as is displayed, the 10 pull is obviously 10 times the amount of the single pull. And the same is said for the microcurrency, where one pull would cost you about $3, 10 pulls would cost you about $30, which is pretty average for gacha games. Now, the obvious question is, why would someone do a 10 pull over a single pull when the single pull is more cheap and affordable? 2 words, drop rates. Drop rates are basically the odds of you obtaining a character of a certain rarity. What are they? Well, for the sake of the video, I'll be keeping the examples simple. There are commons, rares, super rares, and ultra rares, with the drop rate decreasing more and more the rarer the unit is. Now, how does this tie in with doing 10 pulls over a single pull on a banner? Well, you see, most of the time, when you do a 10 pull on a banner, it is guaranteeing that at least one of the units you're pulling will be rare or greater. Now, this does not mean you're guaranteed an SR or a UR unit. Those rates stay the same. Meanwhile, the rare and common drop rates actually change, with common dropping down to 0 and the rare actually receiving that drop rate on top of its current one, guaranteeing that at least one of your units will be at least a rare unit. Now, it is still possible for multiple pulls to be rare, super rare, and ultra rare outside of the guaranteed pull. However, not all gachas will follow this system. Some will instead give you 11 pulls for the price of 10, while others will just have a special banner where the drop rate will be greatly increased for UR. Now, there are other systems put in place to help you get the unit you want, and they are the pity system and the loyalty system. These pretty much operate the same in every gacha, with some minor differences, but overall, they're pretty much the same thing. First off, the pity system. It is as it sounds. The game takes pity on you, and just straight up gives you the featured unit of the banner. However, the amount of pulls you have to do in order to obtain pity are quite a lot, more commonly ranging from 70 pulls to 100 pulls, with some games having you pull even more than that. But that's rare by comparison. Most of the time you will just see 70 to 100 pulls. Now, it is possible to have this system work for you instead of against you by using the generic banner. The generic banner basically has no featured units. No units have an increased chance of being obtained. They all have the same drop rate amongst their rarity. All commons have the same drop rate. All rares have the same drop rate, etc, etc. Now, how you use it for the pity system is simple, because the pity system actually carries over to multiple banners. So, all you would have to do is basically roll 69 times on the generic banner, and then save your 70th pull for the banner with the unit you want. That way then, by simply doing one pull, that unit is now yours. However, there is one risk, and that is the risk of resetting the pity. How you go about doing that? By pulling a featured unit from a banner. And in a generic banner, that is any UR. So if you pull a UR at any point while trying to build up your pity, you'll have to start from zero all over again. But this is only the case for the generic banner. If you were instead to do it on a featured banner, it would only get reset if you pull a UR that is featured. But the risk is still there all the same. And now for the second system, the loyalty system. Now, whenever you pull a unit, you'll actually obtain a currency. This currency is tied to the loyalty system. The name of this can change from game to game, so for this video I'll be referring to them as tokens. And sometimes a game can have multiple kinds of tokens, and how you obtain them can easily be based on which banner you pulled from or the rarity of the unit. The amount you obtain also varies, and you spend these tokens in the loyalty shop, which houses a variety of items, ranging from character leveling items, free pulls, or free units. But just like anything else with gachas, there is a catch. One of two, based on the game. The first catch is that the units are only in the shop for a limited amount of time. In this case, the shop may only have a few units to pick from, which will change after the set amount of time. And with every change, there'll be no guarantee as to whether or not the unit you want will appear, or even come back if it was in the shop before. Now, there are some cases where the shop will have all the units to pick from, as well as have them available permanently. However, this is where the second catch comes in. That being, it will take a lot of tokens to obtain these units. And remember, the only way to obtain these tokens is by doing pulls. So overall, this system is testing your loyalty to the game. Now, before I finish out the video, there is one more thing I need to mention. Duplicates. These are simple. These are copies of units you already own. Yep, just as how you have a chance of obtaining a new unit from a banner, you also have a chance of obtaining a copy of one you already own. Now, some games, instead of giving you a copy of a unit, will instead give you a special item, specifically for that unit. Regardless, you use them both in the same way. You feed them into your main copy. and doing so can end up doing a combination of things, ranging from simple stat buffs to straight up altering the abilities of the units, potentially allowing them to do things they weren't able to before. Now, there are other possibilities, but that can range from game to game, basically like with everything else I've been telling you about. And I know I sound like a broken record when I mention that, but that is genuinely the case with gacha games. They share a lot of features that may be similar in idea, but in execution can be vastly different from one another. But back on the duplicates. Now, one may think these would be necessary in order for you to do anything in the game, but actually, they aren't. At least I don't think they are. If anything, duplicates are only needed if you're trying to do as much damage as possible, or trying to clear content as quickly as possible. What matters is how you play the game, as well as how you team them up and build them up. Now, I know about the predatorial tactics a lot of these gacha games do, from using FOMO tactics on event banners, or from just simply trying to entice you to spend money with their bundles and sales on microcurrency. But overall, those do just seem like standard business practices. It doesn't justify it though, especially with gacha games. Mainly because gacha games do tend to share similarities with actual gambling, and in that case can cause gambling addiction in people, or just worsen it for those who already have it. The best advice I can give you in that regard is just to be aware of these tactics, as well as just making sure you're spending your money wisely. Otherwise, how you spend your money is ultimately up to you. And that just about does it. All I wanted to say in this video has been said. Now, I do plan on doing 2 more videos, each being dedicated to a specific gacha game. One of them being Genshin Impact, one which I'm pretty certain a lot of people are familiar with, one way or another. And the second being Alchemy Stars, a less popular gacha game that has been slowly rising up in popularity. Now, both of these games I have spent a fair amount of time and money into them. I will be going over basic stuff like game mechanics, content, etc., as well as how the gacha system itself affects the game. But overall, it will just be me giving my opinion on the game and what I genuinely think of it. Now, as to which one will come out first, that will just be based on which one I finish first. Other than that, I just ask that you be patient for it. And with that, I shall now leave you be. Thank you for sticking around for this long if you bothered to, and I do hope you enjoyed this video to some extent. Other than that, goodbye and have a good day.